Kings and Queens, today we're back with an absolute banger. We're gonna be looking at my greatest game yet, and of course the featured players are myself, and a very strong international master from Poland, rated 2480 FIDE. By the end, you'll both learn something new, and you'll hopefully be entertained. So, let's get straight into it. My opponent plays a lot of openings, so it was of no shock that my opponent plays c4 rather than d4 or e4. Yeah, no, I prepared this for sure. I played knight f6, and after knight c3, rather than playing e6 and d5, which is more conventional, and is something that I've used in the past, I decided to play c5, an uncompromising move, and I want to gain an imbalance, yeah, because the only way for white to fight for an advantage is to eventually play d4, and then I can trade, and then an imbalance will be created. So rather than with e6, d5 playing a solid approach and giving my opponent the initiative, I try to grab it myself. So c5, we get knight f3 and knight c6. Yeah, it looks like I'm playing boring, mirroring him, but at any move I can decide to break the mirror. Yeah, let's say he plays g3, there's moves like d5, moves like e5, and you can also just play g6. But you can decide to really be creative with the system. Now, my opponent plays d4 because this is the most critical approach. I take, and after knight takes d4, the main line goes e6, but this is very theoretical, and for this game I had prepared something else. Yeah, I thought, well, since my opponent is so well prepared, I'm gonna try to get a little sideline going to surprise him. I play queen to b6. Yeah, this move is not quite conventional, it breaks the opening principles, and some of you even may refer me to my own videos. Why am I moving out the queen? Well, that's simply because I force his knight to get out of the center. Now, if he plays bishop e3, by the way, I can go knight g4. Yeah, I don't take this pawn on b2, I can go knight g4, and he has some problems to solve. So he has to move out the knight to b3, c2, and by doing this, it's just easier for black to develop. So this is a very concrete circumstance where it's okay for black to play queen b6. And by the way, also knight b5 is a move. Now, I thought my opponent would have been out of book by now, but he wasn't. He plays knight c2 and he was confident, he just put that on the board. Yeah, no, that was pretty shocking to me. I decided to play e6, and also e4 he blitzes out. Now here I am actually out of book. I kind of forgot what I was doing, not too sharp by me, but I do end up finding all the right moves, so it's not really an issue. I play bishop c5 and I attack f2. Yeah, by this move I develop a piece and I threaten to take. Now, he has to play either queen f3, queen e2 or queen d2 because this pawn is hanging. My opponent plays queen d2 and also this, he blitzes it out, so it's pretty intimidating. Now, here I have a couple of options. I can go knight g4, which is the main suggestion of the engine. But first of all, I'd have to be okay with repeating, which I was. But after f3, we get knight f2, rook g1, or sorry, knight a4, here's the move. And this is just incredibly unclear, and I didn't know if I could do this. Now, apparently you can play like this, but I wasn't gonna. Especially since he's still in his prep, it wouldn't make sense for me to enter such a concrete line. Instead, I play knight to b4. Now, some of you may be going like, why are you bringing out your knights? Why are you moving them twice? Just castle. Now, if I would have castled, my opponent would have played knight a4, and I have some issues because he's gonna take my dark squared bishop. Now, why is this such an issue? Well, you guys can see that my bishop on c8 is pretty bad. All these pawns are restricting it, so this bishop on c5 is really my only sort of good piece. Now, here the only move is bishop b4, and after takes, this is just not something you want to enter with black. You can see I have a doubled pawn, he has a nice center, he has the bishop pair, so this wasn't on my to-do list. Now if I drop the bishop back, I just keep moving the same piece twice, it can't be good. I mean, he just plays bishop d3 and castles. So, I play knight b4, and the purpose of this move is just that it's very concrete, it's based on calculation. First of all, if knight e3, I take. If he takes with the queen, there's check, and if he takes like this, he has doubled pawns. Now after knight b4, my opponent decides to take on b4, which is the most logical move and also the best one at that. So he takes and I take, and now there's no longer a knight a4, I've traded one piece, which is in my favor, as white has more space. Now here he plays bishop d3, a logical developing move, and the key characteristic of this position is that, well, white has more space and the center, So many of you may go, this must be better for white. If I were to play moves like castles, it would just be too slow. He get a3, take my bishop pair, and well, lots of bad things are gonna happen here for black. This is just not what you want. So what was my idea playing knight b4 in this position? I wanted to do this and then play queen to a5. And the point is that now my opponent cannot prevent any doubling of the pawns. If he plays queen c2 and he tries to castle, it's just not fast enough. I'm gonna take here anyway. So my opponent plays castles and I decide to play castles as well. Yeah, I'm just getting my king to safety. My opponent plays queen e2. Yeah, rather than putting it on c2, he decides to gambit this pawn. Now I take it and I do not take this pawn. Now if I were to take this pawn, the point is that you're just gonna get cooked. Okay, the engine even suggests moves like e5, but let's say he just plays rook b1 and bishop b2. The point is just, all my pieces are on the back rank. I open up his bishop pair by taking on c3, and I break all the golden principles that I often try to refer you guys to. So after takes, what do? No, I leave this pawn on c3. I play d6. And the point is that my strategy is based around winning the c4 pawn and not the c3 pawn. What I want to do is I want to play b6, bishop a6, rook c8, and move like queen a4, and then take. And he can never guard it enough. He cannot protect this pawn enough times. So naturally white is gonna have to take some risk, because he has to checkmate me before I can get off all that. So this is just a very risky approach by white. Now, my opponent plays rook b1, and this move may look like it has no real purpose, but the point is that he wants to play rook b5 and swing the rook over to g5, which is very spirited, and I actually love this move. Now, here I can do a couple of things. First of all, if I play b6, I allow his plan. If I play e5 and I try to block this rook, I would have played this, but it allows bishop g5. And, well, if I move the knight, he can do this, attacking both the rook and the pawn, and he's winning. And if I don't move the knight, he's gonna take me, play f4, and open up the position of my king. Because the only risk that I'm running is just getting checkmated. Like, he has to play very actively, he has to try to checkmate me, and I just have to play defensive moves and try to win the c4 pawn. So I play a very nice prophylactic move, knight to d7. Now, one more thing I do want to mention, why not h6 to prevent bishop g5? Well, then I simply create a hook. So now f4, e5 is going to be very strong. Now I play knight d7, and the point is that I want to play knight e5, attacking c4, or knight c5. And then I attack this bishop, and yeah, the knight is just well placed on both of these squares. So it's just a good prophylactic move. Also, bishop g5 isn't there. Now here, if he plays rook b5, I can just go queen c7. And the swinging of the rook is a little bit mistimed. It doesn't really do too much, and after f6, I can just play maybe a move like e5. And now this pawn blockades the bishop. Play moves like b6, bishop a6. It all looks pretty okay. So what does my opponent do instead? He plays that move f4. Of course he does. He wants to play e5, wants to play queen h5, wants to play f5. He wants to take my soul and kill me on the board. Now here I decide to play knight c5 and I attack the bishop. Now this is actually a very, very good move and idea by me. Now to some of you it may seem that after bishop c2 I want to play e5. And although this move is also fine, after f5 I'm really not sure. The engine calls it zeros, but white has an easy plan of pushing the pawns up the board, and I have to be very creative, you know, moves like b6, and then I have to start all types of maneuvers. This queen is gonna get in trouble with rook b5, so I didn't like this. No, after bishop c2, I would have played f5, and this is really, really thematic. I block in this bishop of white, and now after takes, this bishop cannot see anywhere, and this bishop also cannot see anywhere. So if I now get a couple of moves, bishop e6, you know, rook e8, rook d8, black will be close to winning. So apparently after rook d1 it's still fine for white, but it's definitely very risky, and I think black would be winning this in practice all the time. Now, my opponent decides to play e5 instead, and this is a very active move. It opens up the bishop. He's trying to checkmate me, which is very logical. Now, of course, I take his bishop. So now after queen takes d3, he is gambiting a pawn. Because if I take it, he's gonna take back. And then when takes happens, although I'm up a pawn, I really didn't want to play this. Now, the engine again calls this zeros, but you can see all my pieces being on the back rank, and this just seems like a recipe for disaster, especially because opposite colored bishops favor the attacking side. Now obviously my opponent is attacking me, and he has all the open files, and following something like bishop a3, rook e8, you can see the pawn on f7 becoming weak, and I have no way to develop my pieces. I didn't want to do this. So what do I do instead? I take, and I play rook d8, further restricting my opponent. Now if he decides to play any move like f5, now I can play d takes e5, and it comes with a tempo on the queen, which is super important. Because now when he moves, I can take, and although he can play bishop h6, I can now bring back the queen to f8. So there's no real issue. So by doing this, I basically win an extra pawn. I can take on f5 as well, because I can take with tempo. So f5 is off the table. Now I was looking here at moves like e takes d6 and rook d1. Yeah, after rook d1, he's actually going to win this pawn. But I have b6 and I have counterplay against the c4 pawn, which is weak, which I created all that time ago. So what does my opponent do instead? He plays that move queen to g3. I did not see this move, I didn't even look at it. But it turns out it's a pretty strong move. The idea is that he wants to play f5 and then bishop h6. And then you can see this king is a little bit suspicious. Now I don't go pawn grabbing with queen c5 or taking. I play a very nice maneuver here. Yeah, this is actually a very important moment in the game, because now if I start to play moves like b6, he's just gonna kill me with moves like rook b5, f5, bishop h6. He's gonna take, get his rook involved. All his pieces are gonna swarm my king. So what do? I decide to go for activity. I play bishop d7 and I sacrifice this pawn on b7. Now, if he were to take, I just play bishop c6. And although he takes a pawn, you can see in his last two moves, he's gained nothing but just giving me this pawn. Let's say he goes to b4, gained a pawn, but all of his pawns are still weak. And the key of this position is that time is very important, because he has to checkmate me because he has too many weaknesses. So this time is more valuable than this pawn. That's the point. Yeah, that's what I'm really trying to say. The time is more valuable than the pawn, because I'll just be able to win these ones back in the future. So he does not do this. After bishop d7, he plays the move e takes d6 and he grabs a pawn. It's logical, it's a good move. Now here I make an inaccuracy according to the computer. I'm not entirely sure how to take this, but apparently after the move bishop c6, black is slightly better. But yeah, again, I didn't want to allow f5, I didn't want to allow this counterplay. Now apparently after queen c5, you can take this, and somehow after bishop f4, black is just gonna end up fine in these complications. The attack is not as good as one might think it is. Now, I just wasn't gonna do this. It's gonna take a very long time to calculate if it's good. If it's not, you immediately lose. And the move I play is actually pretty solid. I play queen f5. Now, we got bishop e3, and I decide to play a move b6. Yeah, this is a very important move to my strategy, actually. Otherwise, I could get into real trouble. If I play bishop c6, he can play c5, and now you can see these pawns cannot move because then he takes, obviously. And I'm gonna be fixed the entire game. Then he's gonna play bishop d4, and he's gonna bring back the rook. I'm cooked. So I play b6, and now with c5 I can take. So I fixed this pawn. I'm making sure that he can only play a certain set of moves. Now here the best move is queen g5, just getting rid of my oh so powerful queen on f5, and the endgame that arises after f6 is probably close to a draw. Yeah, probably wouldn't have made a video about this game if he would have played queen g5. It probably would end in a draw or a win for white. It's a very solid continuation, but it's also not too ambitious. Now my opponent decides to play bishop d4, and I did not understand this move at all. I thought this was a bad move. Yeah, I actually was second guessing myself at this point. I was just checking, like, am I blundering a piece or something? Because, well, I thought I can play f6, and I'm guarding everything. And I just didn't see what the point was of this move. It just wastes a move. Because now I also cover queen g5, so the endgame is no longer available. And as it turns out, black is just better here. So, yeah, I don't know what he was doing, he just messed up. Now here he plays queen f3, and for like maybe 2 minutes I was like, oh my god, I messed up, you know, this game is so bad, what am I doing? Because of one thing. He is threatening queen b7, and this move is very important. Like, let's say I play h6, he gets his queen in. The point is that I cannot move this rook or he takes, and he can now slowly start play on the queen side, pushing his spawns and getting up the board, and he's paralyzing all my like both my rooks. My bishop cannot really move, and it's just very unpleasant, right? But then I found out, wait, if I look one move further, we can see that queen f3 is a mistake. I played rook c8, and now if queen b7 happens, I can play bishop c6, he takes, and let me think, what was the calculation again? I think just queen c2, yeah, it was queen c2, and then bishop f2, queen e4. If he goes rook f2, I take his rook, so I'm threatening a checkmate. He guards, and then queen e4, yeah, it's just a checkmate. So he cannot play queen b7 after rook c8, and, very important, I'll get another tempo with bishop c6. So basically queen f3 is just a waste of a move in my opinion. And now he doubles down. Like, he's like, nah, I'm playing g4. And I thought this was so risky, because now he's opening up even his king's position just to get some space. So I just blitz out queen g6, and now I'm even getting up on time as well. So right now it's looking really good for me. And he decides to play this move h3, and he just tries to solidify. But actually this is just a huge mistake. Because when he plays h3, he doesn't really take into account the factor of time I was talking about before. We realized that you have to be fast, because strategically black is playing very solid. Now here apparently rook c6 is also good, taking d6 pawn, but I had my eyes fixed on this pawn, so I take that boy off the board. Now we get rook b1, yeah, a great move. Here I was calculating moves like bishop c6, queen e2, bishop d5, f5. I wasn't sure. I didn't have quite enough time to really think about the consequences of such moves, and I felt that rook c8 was just very solid, because now I'm gonna play bishop c6 anyway, and I'm gonna play h5 soon. So that's what I played. Now here my opponent plays a blunder. Like, this is really where he completely loses the thread of this game. Yeah, I mean, I think he just really wanted to win, because obviously I'm way lower rated, and well, he has played very ambitiously so far. Now here he just has to do nothing and accept that he kind of messed up. Like, he should just play a move like rook e3 and sort of wait to see what I'm gonna do. But of course, this pawn is weak, this pawn is weak. I can get my bishop all the way to d5. It's very scary. Now what my opponent does, by the way, is absolutely like, it's just very weird. I did not consider this. He plays queen b7. Now at first sight you may be like, well, he's gonna win these two pawns. Which is fair, like he is. But in turn, he's leaving his king behind. Like, he's leaving this poor king on g1 that's stripped of all of its cover once I play this move h5. Now here, I actually have a way to win the game, which is super interesting. So I can play bishop b5 and I attack this rook. And when it moves, queen to f7. And now he has to trade the queens and I win the d6 pawn. I did not see this. Instead, I play a move which technically allows him back into the game, but practically would never happen. I play h5 and I just increase the pressure. Now here he can get back into the game by moves f5, takes, queen d5 check, king h7, rook e7, and apparently this is fine for him. I mean, I was thinking, okay, f takes g4, maybe he can take on f6 of course, but like, this king is so weak. But he can just take, and apparently this is fine for white, so that's very spectacular. But I mean, no chance he's gonna see this. I mean, he'd really have to be completely locked in to spot something like that. Now instead my opponent blunders here. Now still he should have just probably played a move like queen g2, and after bishop b5, you know, just move the rook and I can take this pawn, I'm up a pawn. But you know, the game goes on because he has some compensation with this bishop. We have asymmetrical bishops. However, my opponent after h5 plays g5. Oh, what a move. Yeah, I was shocked. I was utterly shocked because he leaves this queen to b, and now after my move bishop c6, I attack the queen. When it moves, I just get this entire diagonal. I threaten queen c2, and like, there's so many checkmating patterns here. So okay, my opponent, he takes on a7, which is kind of forced. I mean, he could also play queen e7 maybe, which is also interesting, but then e5 wins. And if he takes, I take. So that's great. Now, he takes. And here I play a very nice move. I play queen to f5. Yeah, the point is that if I go queen c2, by the way, he can go rook f2. And actually, there's just no checkmate here. It just doesn't work. because like there's no entry he can take. So maybe this is what he saw. Maybe he missed this e5 and queen f5 combo, because e5 also wins, by the way. But I play queen f5, and I think this is a very nice move, because I'm now threatening to take on h3, and if he plays excuse me, if he plays king h2, well then rook a8 and I take on a2. But the drawing the arrows is also pretty hard today. It doesn't quite work. Anyways, yeah, rook a8, and I've infiltrated with my rook and I win the game. So I'm threatening this pawn and he can't guard it. If he goes rook e3, by the way, there was some queen c2, I think. Yeah, okay, wait, of course there's also just e5 again. Now the bishop is blocked in, and if he takes, I can take. And if he doesn't take, I take his bishop. So this is very easy. So he plays this move, queen e7. Yeah, this move is designed to put on one last trick. Yeah, if I play rook e8, he can go d7, and this is winning still, apparently, but this looked very unclear. I had no clue what was going on at this point, because, well, of course, if I take, he makes a queen. So, but apparently after queen takes h3, queen takes e6, this just remains interesting. I mean, I guess you can just go king h7, and even here you can just see how good that bishop is. And it's gonna end in a win for black, for sure. Anyway, I do not do this. I play this move e5, which we've seen a couple times now. And by the way, I don't take here because then he trades the queens. I play e5, and, well, the point is that if he takes, I can take here, and I checkmate with these squares, right? Like, okay, first of all, this is checkmate, and I just get in, I play rook e8, it's gonna win. We don't have to look at this. If you move out the bishop, this queen is trapped, that's the point. I can go rook d7, trap the queen, I can also just take and try to checkmate, but yeah, so I was, with e5 I was trapping this queen, and since he can't take, because I take, I just effectively win this game right here, on this move, e5. He plays rook e3, and now there's a million winning moves. I just play rook d7, yeah, I don't take this bishop. I mean, I can, like, it's logical, you can take the bishop. I want this queen though, because this bishop is gonna remain trapped. If he takes, I can still take, and queen has no squares, so I'm just winning the queen. Now, he takes, and yeah, this is just a couple of sort of time scramble moments where he's trying to catch me off guard, but very nice move, king f8. I'm not going for a trade of queens, I'm trying to get my rook to the open file. And yeah, this game will end very soon. With the move rook f8, I'm threatening to take, pawn's gonna go up the board, I'm up a rook, it's got nothing left. Yeah, so this was my game. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do let me know if you guys have any feedback in the comments, as I really appreciate it. Also, if you like this video, you'll probably also enjoy this in-depth analysis. Moreover, do also stay hydrated.